Frank, the sixth named storm of this Pacific hurricane season. Tropical Storm Frank formed earlier today after briefly spending time as Tropical Depression 7. Here it is, currently at 11.8 north, 103.5 degrees west. This storm currently moving just a slight bit north of west, and you can quite clearly see the country of Mexico there well towards its north. Currently with winds of 40 miles per hour and a pressure of 1004 millibars, moving west as mentioned earlier at 12 miles per hour. That's as of 5 p.m. Central Time this July 26th. The storm might struggle for a bit, but eventually it's going to get its act together and could intensify into a hurricane later down the line. Here it is right now, depicted on the map, with its fairly small wind field at the moment, extending out a maximum of 60 nautical miles to the northwest. And these are the current distances from land in kilometers. It's 689 from Acapulco, 686 from Zihuatanejo, 820 from Manzanillo, 1000 from Puerto Vallarta, and 1308 from Mazatlan. Although that's pretty moot because it's not going to affect any of these locations, and as you would probably expect for a storm that's quite far out to sea and remaining out there are no watches and warnings in effect at this time. So this is another one this year that we can just watch it sail out to sea. So primary hazards, there are none. It's not even close enough to really cause significant rip current issues or surf or anything like that. Obviously pay attention at the beach and behave and whatnot, but right now 12-foot seas extend outwards as far as 45 nautical miles in the northeastern quadrant. That's your lot right now with this early stage tropical storm. So here's the forecast for it and its expected trajectory over the next 7 days, and you can see the wind field will gradually grow, but it will really take off by the time we get to Friday and Saturday, and there it is, probably peaking there as a Category 1 hurricane, and then by the end of the weekend it starts to weaken and shrinks and shrivels up by the time we get to early next week as colder sea surface temperatures take its toll. You can take a look at another depiction there from the National Hurricane Center's forecast and all of the other observations that we've been looking at. The Asgat Pass is quite a long time ago now, that got 35 miles an hour earlier today, but the automated satellite estimating tools all going with around 40 to maybe 45 miles per hour according to NOAA ADT, but 40 appears to be a good number. Here's a look at the expected percentage chances of tropical storm force winds, and you can see that the chances initially start going down and then they start to go up again. That's the area this storm might struggle with at first, where we might see it weaken back to a tropical depression, which is what one or two models are suggesting, before re-strengthening as it moves northwestward. Here's the GFS model showing the storm there quite clearly, and it starts to get its act together eventually after a massive band towards the south, and then eventually there it becomes a hurricane and holds on for quite a while there as a Category 1. So that appears to be a decent forecast there from the GFS, but you can see that other system there, it sort of gets tangled up in that, and you can see it possibly loses tropical storm intensity there for a bit whilst it battles with the other storm off to its west. Well, not a storm, but another disturbance off towards the west, and then once that's the picture, it's plain sailing for Frank. And here is the expected water vapor imagery, a sort of mock-up there, and you can see it gets absorbed out of the system into the southwestern band, the end of the band of Frank, and that's why it had such a big band earlier on, and then it starts to wrap up once again. Let's watch that sequence again, it's fascinating to look at, and you can see there Frank really doesn't develop deep convection there on that either, according to this forecast model, until that point there when the other system is out of the way and it blows up and will probably develop an eye. And there it is waning right at the very end. Looking at rainfall expectations, obviously no land areas are impacted by this, but you can take a little look at those land areas in the distance. Mexico there, unrelated rainfall will probably total maybe 5 inches in quite a few areas along the coast in mountainous areas, but from the storms they're not going to produce any impacts on land to that variety. But out to sea, for any sea interests, of which I doubt, we'll probably be looking at widespread 10 inches or more from both of these systems working together to produce quite significant rainfall totals. Looks like 20 inches there in some of the pink areas, but that of course is about 1,000 miles out to sea. Sea surface temperatures ahead of Frank, and you can see overlaid the National Hurricane Center's forecast cone, and temperatures are good for most of that 5-day period. You can see there that temperatures around about 82 degrees Fahrenheit as a maximum there. Well, yeah, a little bit higher than that actually near the storm itself. That's 28 degrees Celsius, so pushing 29 even possibly in one or two areas close to the storm in the next couple of days. It will start to drop to 26 by day 4 and 24 degrees Celsius by day 5, and that's when the storm will have had it basically and will be on a weakening trend. So let's take a look at the satellite imagery of this storm right now, and you can see that it's quite a bit larger than the other invest that's out there to the northwest, which to its credit isn't looking that bad either, by the way. And I was watching that last night. But over to Frank, and you can see that generally, and let's zoom in a little bit, you can see the convection mostly blowing over the center of circulation, but it is struggling a little bit, and it is partially exposed still at this point. So it is struggling just that little bit to get itself together. It's got that big band to the northern side, which is really showing it to have a lopsided look. Here's another view on one of the enhanced views, and you can see there the convection that's blowing up is quite high up, but you can quite clearly see on the eastern side it is struggling to blow up over the center. Let's see if we can look at some water vapor imagery, looking like this. That's not the best quality I would have liked, but once again you can see that on the infrared channels this storm doesn't look particularly clever, and this is the normal infrared enhancement, and you can see once again quite a few gaps in its coverage. But overall this storm has a future, although it might be delayed by quite a bit because it will be struggling for the next few days as it battles possibly against that other disturbance there before it really starts to get going when it moves further out to sea. We'll have more updates on Frank as and when necessary as it continues its progress.